This is where the fun begins.
General Kenobi.
Hello everyone and welcome to Jedi Knights, the official Star Wars podcast. For Joy Clicks, I'm your host, Christian Buckley, joined by my Chewie, Mike Connors, for episode what we think is 52.
I think it's 52, maybe 51, but still impressive nonetheless. How are you, Christian?
I am doing all right. We have a lot of small stories to talk about today, which is refreshing after a few weeks of just one big nugget of Mando news. But this week we got like Gary Wood is popping off with some new stuff. Squadrons is out now. We're beginning Mandoctober officially. We are recording in and releasing in Mandoctober, so that's exciting. We're gonna get to all of that, but first off, before we dive into our opening segment, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing really, really great. It was fun watching the new, or not the new Mandalorian episodes, but the ones that we watched so long ago.
Yeah.
Getting refreshed on those. That really got me into the Star Wars mood. I don't know about you, but I've just been in that kind of feeling. How have you been?
Pretty good. Likewise, yesterday ordered some Chipotle. Sat down with my brother, who again, as you'd expect because he's my brother, lifelong Star Wars fan, but he hasn't seen The Mandalorian yet. So I was like, Nick, let's just like eat Chipotle and then we can watch the pilot to Mando and you can see what it's like. He dug it, and it was very much like you said, perfect way to get back into the Star Wars mood. So we will be getting to that. Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised he hadn't seen it before.
Yeah, he just never subbed to Disney Plus. That was it.
So he liked it, yeah?
Yeah, he was into it. He liked it. So
cool.
We will get to that, of course, but let's kick the show off the way we normally do with pulling from the Jedi archives, where we go to the sacred Jedi text that is Wikipedia, and educate each other and the audience about a piece of Star Wars info in the galaxy far, far away.
You should go first this time, Christian.
All right. Now, I'm doing something new again. We haven't gone into this subgenre yet, as far as I know.
Oh, all right.
The DL-44 Heavy Blaster Pistol.
Good for you. This is like something I think I may have brought up like starfighters or like capital ships once, but this is like you're really nailing in on the specifics.
Oh, absolutely.
Congratulations. Great choice.
Thank you. So the DL-44 Heavy Blaster Pistol was a type of heavy blaster pistol produced by BlazTech Industries that was used during the years of the Galactic Republic and the Age of the Empire. It was considered one of the most powerful blaster pistols in the galaxy, delivering massive damage at close range. However, it overheated quickly. Those that play Battlefront 2 will know that. There existed a carbine variation of this blaster, including an extended barrel with the existing flash suppressor and an attachable stock. This was used by Tobias Beckett in the trenches of Mimban before he just deconstructed the DL-44 and gave it to one Han Solo.
So it was like originally like a rifle, kind of.
Yeah, it was like a short-range rifle, I think, because I'm thinking of that scene where, of course, as Solo did, it showed us the origin of everything about Han's character.
Yeah, right.
Beckett was using as again a short-range rifle. Took it apart a little bit, tossed it to Han. It's like, here's your weapon. And
I kind of forgot that, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I rewatched Solo like. Realistically, it was in like April, but I was gonna say like 2 months ago.
Yeah. Okay. So, but that's recent enough to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Good choice.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. I like that. I like the. I like going into and learning about like the actual like names of the blasters themselves because they all like I don't know, just sounds very cool.
Yeah, and despite this being probably the most recognizable Star Wars blaster, maybe next to, the Stormtrooper gun, or a Lego Star Wars gun, I never knew the name until the newer Battlefront games. That's how I learned it, because it was a pre-order bonus, if you remember, for the original Battlefront reboot from EA, and then of course Han has it in Battlefront 2. But...
Very good. Good choice.
What do you got?
So I picked a fan favorite from Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I picked Rathtars. So the quote is, "What's a Rathtar?" And then the other quote is, "You want the scientific description? They're big and dangerous and ugly." And that's a conversation between Rey and Han Solo. So they were large carnivorous cephalopods that were native to the planet Tuan Kiti. Regarded as one of the most dangerous beasts in the galaxy, Rathtars were known for hunting in packs. And their subspecies, the dwarf Rathtar, were involved in an incident known as the Trilla Massacre. I think that's mentioned in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so fun fact: these are just cephalopods, and they're carnivorous, as we could see in the movie. I thought that was a fun pick. Pretty cool.
Yeah, the Rathtars, I feel like became like a low-key meme, you know, after episode 7 came out.
For
like,
sure.
We all knew, you know, it's like, oh yeah, the Rathtars, right?
Apparently, in the Wikipedia page, there's a comic where Darth Maul hunts Rathtars.
Ooh, I want to read that.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're into the Rathtar lore, go check it out on Wikipedia.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Now I know more about Rathtars than JJ ever told me. So.
Exactly. You can't let them. You can't let them get free. That's what we've learned.
Yes. Well, that does it for the Jedi Archives for the week. We will return next week with 2 more pieces of lore to fill out our Star Wars knowledge. But you know what's filling out Star Wars in a way that we haven't really seen much over the last decade?
What?
EA and Star Wars games, because we recently just got the release of Star Wars Squadrons, the newest initiative for the EA Star Wars game series. I feel like this is the like most condensed, you know, or like it's the most dense period of releases for EA Star Wars games since they got the license. Because Battlefront 1 was 2015, and then 2 was 2017, and then within a year we get Jedi Fallen Order and Squadrons.
Right. I mean, I think so originally their contract was only for like 5 years, right? So that I think expired in like 2020, didn't it?
Yes. So
and then they renewed it.
We believe so, right? Because like obviously Lego Star Wars exists, and that's WB and Traveler's Tales, but the only solid hard information we have about this deal is I think like 2 springs ago, 3 maybe at this point, there was that Bob Iger call where he was like, "Oh no, we're really happy with how EA handles Star Wars." So yeah, presumably the agreement is ongoing, but Star Wars Squadrons came out, the short campaign focused post Fall of the Empire. So exploring the New Republic, their side versus the remnants of the Empire. I've been hearing positive things about it. You know, it released to a 77 on Metacritic right now, still in the green.
That's good.
Got a couple quotes from some reviews from Twinfinite. They say, "It encapsulates everything that makes those epic dogfights from the movie so magical and puts you right at the heart of it. From the throwbacks to particularly iconic moments to the wailing scream of the TIE fighter at speed, it's all here and it all looks and feels fantastic."
That's good to know. I think we have discussed on the podcast before, I'm not really into like buying this game right at launch, so I'll probably wait till it becomes a little bit cheaper at some point, hopefully during this year. But it's good to know that, like, you know, it's a solid game overall, that the critics and the people are saying that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You know, it's a Star Wars game that I think we're overdue for a modern version of a Star Wars game like this. I'm glad it's finally here, and when the price is right, I'm absolutely gonna dive in, and I'm probably gonna have a blast with it. You know, because I like how the dogfighting works in Battlefront 2. I like how it worked in Battlefront 1. So having a full game just dedicated into figuring out the minutia of how that should feel, gonna be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think you were talking a little bit about how this is like the most condensed period of time for EA and putting out Star Wars content.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of like back before the Disney Star Wars purchase. Like there were a lot of Star Wars games. There were a fair amount of Star Wars games, and there were just like a lot of like one-off, like dumb kind of Star Wars games, right? Like Jedi Starfighter. Not that Jedi Starfighter was dumb, but like, you know, they're just kind of silly. this kind of feels like that in a way. Like they're just kind of releasing something because it has the IP, but is actually quality, like many of the old Star Wars games were. So yeah, I hope that they start to release like more games like this. You know, there was a time where Star Wars games were just like coming out like nothing. So let's get back to that.
Yeah, make it their own genre. You know, like make it so within year 1 or 2 of the PS5 and Series X, like if you go on the store page, there's a tab just for Star Wars. You know, it's like
literally, yeah.
That's what I hope we get back to. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I'd love more smaller experiences. I saw some people knocking it points for the length of the campaign, the fact that there's some microtransactions, the like depth of the story, but or at least I believe there's microtransactions. I could be wrong on that, but
I mean it's EA, so
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised.
But 77, respectable score. I think that's probably like that's still an appealing score for that game. And you know, scores aren't the end all be all, but people will bring them up. So
no, that's a good score. It looks like a fun game, honestly. Mm-hmm. So you know, if it's ever on sale, I'm down.
Very nice. Speaking of going on sale, between the recording and the release of this year episode, the world will be able to get their hands on, from a certain point of view, The Empire Strikes Back. We touched on that a little bit over the past few weeks, from the announcement and teasing of excerpts for this novel, or collection of short stories is a more accurate term.
Yeah.
Mike, are you picking this up?
I think yes, at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I have from a certain point of view A New Hope version. So I think just to, you know, for consistency's sake, I should continue and purchase all 3 of them, because I assume there will be 3.
Yeah, gotta build up that collection.
You gotta build up a collection. Also, at least the first one came in a pretty nice hardcover. So like, you know, it looks good on a shelf. Yeah. So are you do you think you're gonna get it?
I might pass, but let me tell you, I just had this thought. I would love if eventually they did one of these for Revenge of the Sith, and then
they should do them for the prequels. Dude. Yeah, they should do them for all of them.
Yeah,
I think.
And then we get to see like what it was like on Coruscant, you know, from like the civilian perspective. That would be super cool.
Exactly, man. I think it's a really like fun. It's a really fun like method, like medium, I guess. Like having all of these just like random people write, you know, stories, basically fan fiction.
Yeah, and it's all canonized, which is pretty cool.
I don't think it is. Actually.
Oh, it's not.
I think it's like they don't say it, whether it is or it isn't. I think it's one of those things that's like interpret it for yourself, whether it's canon. Because there, in the first one, there's some weird stuff in there.
Well, is the assumption will be then it's like in universe canon, but the way it's written is like from the perspective of that individual, so they could have a bias, or like they could have their own read on it. So like technically, it's still like because the way Disney Star Wars has been working is like everything's canon. So like I get what you're saying though. So like in canon, somebody wrote that entry, but whether it's accurate or not is dependent on the individual.
Exactly. It's like one of those things they call it from a certain point of view for a reason. Right?
Yeah. It's a really cool initiative. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, some of the, you know, I just wanted to shout out some of the people who are going to be writing some of these stories.
Sure.
It's pretty cool, I think. We got Gary Whitta. Honestly, Alexander Freed. He wrote the Star Wars books, or the Alphabet Squadron books.
Mm-hmm.
From this list that's on Amazon, actually, I don't recognize any of these other names.
Well, it's good you bring up Gary Whitta, Mike, because Whitta...
Jason Fry, sorry.
Thank you. Whitta's been teasing something, and it's not this, because I was talking to you. I sent you this on September 30th. Gary Whitta tweeted out, "Some news coming from a galaxy far, far away next week. ... Stay tuned." And within an hour, he was still tweeting about like, from a certain point of view, Empire, and I don't think that's what he was referring to in this tweet, because I don't know why he would say like news coming next week and then follow that up with the news, you know?
Right. Yeah, it seems like it's separate news.
Yeah, so I guess, do you have a guess on what this could be? Like, do you think he's writing a comic? Because he's written comics before. Do you think he's going to take a role in some form for the Cassian series? Do you think he's going to write a Star Wars video game? Like, where's your head at here?
I I mean, the thing is that all three of those things that you said are plausible because Gary Whitta is a man of many talents,
Yeah.
right? So he could very easily, just say, "Oh yeah, no, I'm actually writing a comic," or helping out with the Cassian show, or I'm doing something else. So, or yeah, like a video game, like you said. So I have no idea. I think whatever he does, it'll be something like Rogue One related. Uh, if it is a comic book, maybe something set in that period.
Mm-hmm.
I think most likely what it is he's either going to be announcing something Rogue One related for Disney Plus, or his announcement that he's going to be working on the Cassian show, or something, or just news about the Cassian show. Period.
Mm-hmm. With the fact that he sort of stepped away and then Tony Gilroy kind of took the reins from him, Gary, and Gareth Edwards to like complete Rogue One, do you think that would like be enough of a separation that Gary's next Star Wars thing would be something new, or do you think it is definitely still going to be tied to Rogue One?
I mean, I don't know. Like all of this is kind of speculation, but I feel as though like he got his start doing stuff with Rogue One.
Sure, yeah.
And like the basic premise of Rogue One, I'm sure he had a say in. I'm sure he created those characters in a way, because those characters have lasted throughout all the iterations of that movie.
Yeah. He was absolutely there for, like, he wrote the original version of the movie. So like,
yeah. So I mean, I think like, Disney may want to like, maybe the way that he wanted to take the movie is not the way they wanted to take the movie, but they think that that is the way that they could take a TV show. So I mean, I wouldn't like count it out necessarily that what he's doing is Rogue One related. I would say I would hope so, kind of, but I also think it would be cool if he did something completely different as well. But I think that might be a reality.
Yeah, honestly, I would love to see him take a stab at a Star Wars game, because he recently, this summer, I think, announced that he was working, or he wrote the lore for Project Athia, which is the new Square Enix initiative for next gen. I don't know who's tied on to write Jedi Fallen Order 2. I don't know if that game is being written currently or if they're just making it or what. I don't know what stage that's in, but like, I think that could be cool too. He's no stranger to the games industry. I think he started working as a writer for like PC gaming in the 90s. So like, who knows? You're right. He's a man of many talents.
I mean, I'm kind of curious what you think. Do you think he's going to do something different than Rogue One, or do you think it's going to be adjacent to that he's already created?
I think you're right to lead with that. I think that's the safe assumption, considering there's a Rogue One project going on right now with Cassian, like maybe he has some involvement. We just recently saw a shakeup from Tony Gilroy not being able to be present for directing duties. We talked about that last week, so I could see some modification to the Cassian show as we know it, with Gary being involved, perhaps.
Yeah, I would say so too.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. We'll see. Yeah. I wonder when want to make predictions on what day it's going to be. I'm going to say Tuesday. That's when all the Star Wars news happen.
Either Tuesday or Wednesday morning. Either way, tough luck for us. I think that's what it is.
Literally.
Yeah. But speaking of writers, we do now have the official list of writers for The Mandalorian Season 2 provided by the Writers Guild of America website. The list of writers is essentially 3 people.
Okay.
Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and Rick Famuyiwa, all returning talent from Season 1.
So all 3 of them are going to do all 8 episodes, presumably? That's 8?
Yes. So the breakdown works, how that works out is Favreau doing most of it. He's written... Oh, we have an official episode count as well. Favreau wrote 6 of the 8 episodes.
Okay.
So Filoni and Famuyiwa both wrote 1 by their lonesome. interesting naming structure, according to the breakdown. Obviously,
Are the names of the episodes released as well?
no. But remember how before it was like chapter 1?
Yeah.
Now we're picking up. It's chapter 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
Oh, okay. Good. Interesting. I kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. I think it makes sense. We were speculating if there's going to be a time jump between seasons 1 and 2, and I think that would allow for this to work still, even if there was one. But considering they're looking at it as just a continuation rather than a sequel, I think is kind of exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it reminds me of like Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, sure.
They should, season 2 should be like book 2.
Mm-hmm.
No.
For the official breakdowns for Filoni and Famuyiwa, Dave Filoni wrote chapter 13, and Famuyiwa wrote chapter 15, which I think we can probably assume that they're also respectively going to direct the episodes they wrote, because they both directed episodes in season 1. But
yeah, so I mean, is Jon Favreau just going to be directing the episodes that he wrote?
No, because we do know that Bryce Dallas Howard is back, Peyton Reed is back, Robert Rodriguez is doing an episode, as we remember.
That's why I was like confused, because like I know that we have like all of these like good directors coming on, so good to know.
This is news to me, but we have another confirmed director, one Carl Weathers.
Interesting.
Carl Weathers is directing an episode.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's going to be doing a Grief Karga focused episode.
I was just going to say, do we get like the Grief Karga episode?
Yeah.
Like a day in the is it gonna be like the Fly episode of Breaking Bad, where it's just like a very focused on this one character and as a study of him?
I hope so, man. That'd be actually really funny.
That'd be very I'd be way into that.
Yeah, that'd be so funny. That's a good lineup. That's a good lineup of folks. I think it's cool that he's directing an episode.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'm very curious to see what episode he has. Absolutely. Because I know he's done directing work in the past, but
you know what I was going to say? I was going to say, like, so Bryce Dallas Howard, for example, Deborah Chow, I think, right? They both directed episodes in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of got passed over for writing.
Yeah.
So I wonder, like, if in season 3, like, they'll find more writers. I hope. Yeah,
so it's interesting you say that, because Deborah Chow is not on this list, but we do know right now she's the person making Obi-Wan happen. So like,
that's true. Fair enough.
She was kind of transplanted from this project to be like, hey, you did a great job. You're just gonna write, produce, direct Kenobi. That's your thing.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, but yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard, I think, I'd like to see her have some larger role in some capacity, because both of us, I feel like, really loved her episode.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't want to get into the spoilers. Obviously, we didn't watch it for this episode in particular, but at least through my first watch through, that was my favorite episode.
Yeah.
So what I really want, though, as much like I would love to see Bryce Dallas Howard direct and write an episode, but I really want to see a Robert Rodriguez Mandalorian episode. That's really what I want.
That'd be very cool. Do you think
Machete will show up?
Yes.
And the Spy Kids. Anyway, continue.
I was gonna ask you, do you think he shows up in his episode? Do you think he gets enough pull that he can get him in the Star Wars universe? Wait, wasn't
Machete?
Yeah.
Wait, I hope so, man.
Wasn't he on Gary Whitta's show at one point, and he talked about Star Wars? Isn't that where a story came from originally?
Danny Trejo?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Well, I can look into that for next week, but I almost am positive he was on Animal Talking and they talked about Star Wars.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Well, maybe he does show up.
We should start a hashtag. We should start a hashtag. Get Machete into the Star Wars universe.
That's gonna be the second
Like
hashtag.
that.
For this episode, it's gonna be hashtag Mandoctober, hashtag put Machete in Star Wars.
Yeah, put Machete in Star Wars. That's what we need.
Well, speaking of Mando, we do have one more piece of confirmation on some news. Via the German Disney Plus website, we know officially Rosario Dawson is in season 2 of The Mandalorian.
We also know another character, right? Wasn't it Rosario Dawson and somebody else?
Yeah, I can pull the article back up, but yeah, this was highly rumored, speculated, all but confirmed forever. Now it is confirmed. If you're to trust the listing on the Disney Plus German website, but
I would.
Yeah, you know, like things go wrong sometimes, you know, but this is straight from the source that I would be shocked if she actually does not appear. But
yeah, I think it would be. I guess I think it's good to cover this just because we have some hard evidence. Yeah.
Right. The other confirmed actor is Timothy Olyphant, who was speculated or rumored to. This is maybe a spoiler if it's true, but we talked about this already on the show, so I know we're not doing spoilers this month, but I'll bring it up because we already covered this. If you're sensitive, skip like 20 seconds. Timothy Olyphant was the one who was either rumored to or seen on set in the Boba Fett armor.
There we go. Yeah.
He's in it.
Anyways, moving on from this.
Yeah. Well, that's everything for news. That's everything. So here we are.
What a light news week. Here we are.
Half an hour in. Mandoctober, Mike. Mandoctober begins. We're here. It's the Mando's time. We rewatched the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus.
Chapter 1 and 2, respectively.
Yes. Chapter 1, I think, is called The Bounty. Chapter 2 is The Child. First
we're
impression.
only like hold on. We're only like 25 days away. Well, from the time of recording the episode, which is Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Only like 25 days away from season 2 coming out, which is very exciting.
Yeah, man, it went by very fast.
It did, but it's like I'm super hyped, especially after watching these next 2 episodes, or first 2 episodes, if you think about it.
Already correcting myself. The first episode is called The Mandalorian.
Okay. So do we know if like the next season is going to be released like every week as another episode?
I believe so. We don't know for sure how many are dropping on launch day. Because remember, there was that weird phrasing that made it sound like there might be 2.
Yes.
Honestly, knowing that there's 8 episodes kind of makes me hope it's just 1. Because I would like this to go until as long as it can.
Totally.
But out the gate, starting out with Chapter 1, what was it like for you revisiting this episode? What was your initial read on it, seeing the introduction of Mando again?
Honestly, man, like the introduction of the Mandalorian like hits harder, I think, the second time around.
Okay.
Like knowing like where this all goes, and like knowing like just the character transformation that he goes through and throughout the first season, seeing him just like show up and just like, for lack of a better word, just like totally kick ass and just be ruthless and like not care. It's kind of cool to watch that again. I don't know if you also felt similarly.
No, yeah, I it was definitely more comedic this time for me.
You think
like,
so?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think the read on it this time was a little funnier because I think when I initially watched it, I was just so like enthralled by like the tone and the music that I was just like edge of my seat. I was like, okay, what now? What next? What's he gonna do? This blue guy? What's next? But like, man, they lean on that guy for the first like 8 minutes, maybe.
That's true. They do.
But go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I think it's interesting how we totally like had different opinions on it. Like you kind of thought it was sillier than I was still in like that I don't know, like honeymoon, like enthralled sort of stage with it.
Sure. No, but I still think that the introduction of Din Djarin is still like, that still hits. Like the way he's presented and everything, the way he's like silent, I really really like that. I think I said this on our initial review, I still think the first episode is like excellent at establishing the tone of where the show is going to go. And I think there, to that point, like I was very surprised how many seeds are planted in this episode. Because like we're going to revisit these over the course of the next few weeks, but like the Beskar, the flashbacks, the no droids thing, like so many returning aspects, so many features that get built upon are thrown into this first episode, where again in hindsight of seeing where the rest of it goes, I'm like, oh, so they were setting like all of this up out the gate. You know, they don't immediately touch on stuff like the Empire Doctor or the story of the Foundlings until a few episodes in. So like watching it in real time last year, kind of forgot about some of those things, but going back to it, it's like, oh wow, so yeah, they had the whole thing set up. They had it all planned out.
No, they totally did. And honestly, like I think that's a sign of like a good show. Like they obviously have a vision for this, and it's kind of shown through the fact that they were like leaving breadcrumbs, like even in the first episode, and it's all stuff that when you watch it through the first time, you'll never pick up on.
Right.
So it's quite clever in that way, and yeah, I think this episode does a really good job, sort of just setting up the rest of the show. I think it does a good job, like with intrigue and also action. There's a lot of like, you know, action in this episode, which is pretty cool. You love to see it. So I don't know, I think this is like one of the best pilot episodes of a TV show ever.
Yeah, it's up there. It's a really strong way to kick off a show like this. I'll ask you this again with the hindsight of the show, but also the hindsight of the Clone Wars, another Filoni joint. Right. Did it feel like a Clone Wars episode to you at all in any way?
I honestly no, I didn't get that vibe. Okay. Like while watching it, maybe I just wasn't thinking about it in that way. It's possible. I kind of just sort of turned my brain off and watched it. I didn't like think about. I guess I just didn't think about it critically, Christian.
That's fine. Okay. That's fine.
No, I did think about it critically, just not in that way. Yeah. So no, not to me. I wonder if it did for you though.
Not necessarily. I feel like if I really want to reach, I could say that it felt like the beats of an arc of Clone Wars condensed into one episode. So like we go somewhere, we meet like somebody from something. They have the main character, and that character has a back and forth that's kind of comedic, but also like you learn from them, and there's an action thing. Like to that extent, sure, but like at that point you're just boiling it down to just like the structure of a lot of different forms of TV. But it definitely feels like something Filoni worked on, I think, in again the aspect of tone and stuff like that. And I remember some people weren't a huge fan of Filoni's episodes from just like other podcasts I listened to last year, like Cantina Convo, were like, hey, Filoni's great at animation, and this was very clearly his first stab at live action. But like, do you think he did a good job still? Because I think personally he did.
I mean, I think, what did he do? He did the 5th episode when they go to Tatooine, right?
Yes.
That episode, I think, is like the weakest out of all of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say that one feels more like a Clone Wars episode than this, I think, from memory.
Sure. Yeah, from memory as well. I think you're probably right. But that one to me is like the weakest out of all 8 of them. And so I see where they're coming from in terms of like that. As far as I can remember, it's been a while since I watched episode 5. We'll get to it. Mm-hmm. But I always thought episode 1 was strong. Always. And even after watching it a second time, I think honestly it's just reinforced that I really like this episode. Like I said before, it does a really good job setting everything up. Um, So yeah, I think he did a really good job with this episode. I see where people are coming from with the other episode that he did. So yeah, for this one, I think he did a good job.
Was there a standout moment for you? Because
Yes.
something that really, really struck me was just how immediate Mando's connection to the child was. Like, I got it before, like, again, the first time watching it, I was shocked, but, like, seeing him just sort of, like, connect to him at the end, it's like, oh, he feels bad for the kid, but, like, I think there's something about, again, credit to the stunt performers that were on set, presumably, for that scene, like, the body language of, like, the helmet, and, like, I think there's, like, a slight tilt or something when he sees it the first time, but, like, man, I really felt, it's like, oh, he, like, feels a bond with this thing that maybe he doesn't even recognize yet, but he's acting on it immediately, and that really stood out to me. But what's your standout?
No, that's a good one. I think that scene that you just mentioned, it helps. It helps that the music is like really good as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very epic in the background. It's like the perfect closer to the episode. But for me, for this episode, I was really struck by how like intimidating the client is, Werner Herzog's character.
Sure, yeah.
I was like, I didn't really get it so much the first time around. Like I didn't really feel the weight of his character. I didn't really like understand the impact. But this time around, for some reason, he just came off a lot scarier to me, like a lot more intimidating, a lot more like creepier.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way that he delivers the lines, and the mysterious intention that he has with the child. It's really odd.
Yeah.
I kind of like it a lot.
So
I think they did a good job with it.
I'm glad you bring that scene up as well, because like something stood out to me there where it felt like the doctor was the one who was like actively seeking out the child, and then like Werner Herzog's character is just like the pocket that he can like that can like fund it. Do you know what I mean? Like it feels like it wasn't his call. It feels like it was the doctor's call more than anything.
I don't know if I agree with that, because I think right at the end he's like, Werner Herzog's character is like, you could bring it in like dead, essentially, and the doctor's like, that's not what we agreed to.
Yeah,
And
well, that's why I think it is, because like if Werner Herzog's character is like, I don't care, like we just need it, you know, but this doctor's like, oh no, that's not what we agreed on. It felt like the doctor said, hey, I need this for XYZ, pay this man for me, you know.
yeah, I don't know. I still think personally, like I got the impression that Werner Herzog's character was like, if there was a hierarchy list of the room, he would be higher than the doctor.
Sure.
Just because right afterwards he's like, oh, like I'm just being realistic, and then like gives a look at the Mandalorian. But I could see the argument from your perspective. I think that's probably something that will be explored in later seasons. Like why was he looking for him? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Like,
like
was
who
it
are these
Gideon's
people?
call, or like is he a separate sect of like what's left of the Empire? Like,
Yeah, like that's a big question. I don't think that they would just let that hang. Like, who is this like Imperial Doctor? Like, why is this guy looking for Baby Yoda? Like, what's going on? What was the purposes of them? Like, why did they want him to begin with? You know. So, yeah, just interesting stuff all around. I really like the episode.
me too. Now, what do you feel about episode 2? If memory serves, I think you called this episode filler last time.
Oh, did I?
I think you did.
Did you like run? Did you like go back? Did
No,
you,
I'm just trying to think back to like the conversations we had, because I was like,
how do you remember?
man, I don't know. Sometimes my memory just remembers very specific things from a long time ago. But
Okay. All right.
did it change? Are you laughing because you think it's filler still, or
I
like...
still think it's filler. Yeah, I don't really like this episode.
Yeah, I mean, there's some highlights, I think.
Sure. I think the Jawas are like.
Why?
I think that. I don't know. I actually like the Jawas.
Sure.
I just like don't. I just don't think the episode really brings us anywhere. You know. I think it's just filler, man. It's just like the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda like have to bond in some way, I guess, and they go on this like adventure.
Go with me here. I have a theory from like a writer's perspective.
Sure.
I think this episode exists to like kind of make Mando look like a loser in a way that like Boba Fett never did, and I think that's why we don't like Boba Fett, because like he's just like, oh, I'm the cool guy, I get the job done, I'm cool, and then he just like dies. You know,
right?
Like I think what this episode does effectively is, and maybe this is the only thing it tries to do, which is where you can get into the argument of like, was this worth it? But I think the moments we get of Din Djarin failing and looking like a dweeb running after the like Jawa freighter, I think those moments exist to ground him a little more, because that first episode he's a badass, he's intimidating, he's going for this high level target, but in this one it's like, no, he's still a person, he can still mess up, he's still like might not have a full grasp on everything. And I think that's important for a character that you're supposed to empathize with, right? Because if he was just the cool bounty hunter the whole time, we'd care less. And if it's just, I'm a cool bounty hunter and I have this like weird trauma with showing my face, then it's like there's less of a relatable factor there. But seeing him lose, fall in the mud, get dirty, it's like, yeah, it's a little silly, but I think that paints him in a way that makes his development feel more earned and feel a little more realistic and stronger. Because I think he's one of my favorite Star Wars characters personally, and I think having that layer involved with a character is important to them being a good, well-rounded character.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart analysis, actually. So yeah, good job for bringing that up, Christian.
But man, that egg.
Yeah, man.
Is that what you're gonna talk about?
No, I gotta say, like, I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to humanize the character. They're trying to make him something that he wasn't in the first episode. Going forward, you see that, you know, Din Djarin is indeed a human. He does feel things. He has emotions. So I see what you're saying, that this episode was trying to do that, trying to ground him, trying to humanize him. Mm-hmm. The question is, does it do it in a way that's like interesting? And to me, I don't think that this is really interesting. There's not a lot of like dialogue. It's all basically just him chasing after Jawas. I don't really enjoy like the last bit where he has to like fight that big
Mudhorn.
Yeah, like, I don't know, it just doesn't catch me in other ways that like some of the other episodes do. Though I see what you're saying and I appreciate like what it's trying to do. I guess to me it just doesn't do it in a way that like grabs my attention, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think like on the surface, when you're getting into the moment to moment stuff, that's very easily hit or miss depending on the person, and not everything in this episode hits for me. Like, I like the Mudhorn scene personally, but yeah, everything else, like, I like the idea of the set piece of him like trying to scale up the Jawa thing, but
yeah, I mean, the set pieces are cool. Like, it's not like a bad episode. I had fun watching it. It's just, honestly, it's not one of the ones that like sticks out to me when I think about it. And like, even watching it a second time, like we just did, it's not one that I wasn't like glued to the seat, you know?
Yeah.
Just put it that way.
Yeah, I wasn't either. And I think despite not being into it, I still think they were what they set out to achieve, if it is what I'm assuming I just went over. Like,
yeah,
I think that still comes across. Right. Like, I still think that like delivers on that front for later in the season, right? We still get the effects of doing an episode like this, but I think you're right, where on this just like personal side, it's very, you like it or you don't like it, and I'm like, it's whatever, you know.
Yeah, I don't dislike it really. It's kind of fine. Like, I'll watch it again. Like, I think it does the job. I think it definitely humanizes him and shows that he's fallible, right? But
Right.
you know, to me personally, in my opinion, I don't think it does it in like an interesting way. Others may disagree.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything to say in summation of rewatching episodes 1 and 2?
Other than the fact that I wish I had a blurg to ride, no.
Yeah. I'll just add on the music. Still great. I love the music for the show. It's so good.
Definitely deserved the. I think it was the Emmy.
Emmy, yeah.
I got it.
So next week, continuing Mando October, we will be watching Chapter 3, The Sin, and Chapter 4, Sanctuary. 2 episodes that I remember loving, and I think those 2 might be some of my favorites for the first majority of the season. So
yeah,
it's gonna be an interesting week.
I'm excited to keep watching these, man. I also think it's cool the way that we're splitting them up. For some reason, it just seems to really work if you think about like going forward, which episodes are paired together.
Yeah. Because I think next week, not to get into like deep talk about next week, because maybe some people are watching along for the first time. Episode 3 stuff goes down with the storyline that we're dealing with right now, and then episode 4 is like, hey, we're taking it easy this week, like that sort of thing, and then we get pulled back in for episodes 5 and 6 and the finale. But yeah, I'm excited. Mando October will continue to reign true. But
all the way into November and Mando December.
Mandovember? Is that a hashtag that could work?
We gotta try it. We gotta figure out something.
Mandovember's not bad. That rolls off the tongue fine.
Novemberlorian.
Decemberlorian.
Decemberlorian. Yeah.
That's what we got. But Mike, until Decemberlorian, where can the listeners find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mike P. Connors.
Very nice. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at Chris N. Buckley. This show is available on youtube.com/joyclicks, along with a variety of other shows. So if you're listening and you want to leave us your reviews for The Mandalorian Season 2, feel free to leave them in the comments. Sorry, Season 1. Leave them in the comments. We'll shout out some of the highlights on the following episode, or tweet them at us at Jedi Knights JC. But this show is also available on audio services like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, all the podcast services you can dream of. So if you can rate or review the show on that platform, because Spotify still does not let you, if you can, it would be very much appreciated. It takes just a second to hit the 5 stars, and that helps the show out a ton. We also have a Patreon. Patreon.com/joyclicks is where you can go to get early access to a variety of shows or video uploads. This one's going up early, so if you want it 2 days early, you can check that out for $1 on our Patreon. $2 tier gets you involved in the shows with question submissions for every show we produce, and the $5 tier gets you producer credit for every show we produce, like Chris Sakas and Aaron Easton for My First Mon. But
nice.
Mike, any final words this week?
Well, I'd say just do all the things that Christian just said to do. Those are my parting words, and watch Mandalorian with us.
Absolutely.
So, have a good week.
The final thing I'll throw out there, watching this, and again, circling back to EA, make a bounty hunter game. I tried the Jango Fett one again earlier this year. It sucked. It crushed my heart. Make a good one. Make a new 2021 good Star Wars bounty hunter game.
We needed a Star Wars game renaissance, and it all starts with a good Star Wars bounty hunter game.
Yeah.
So get on that, EA.
Please. That's it. So until then, we're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
May the Force be with you.
Hello there. This is where the fun begins.
General Kenobi.